Welcome back. For today's Business Matters, we have here with us Don Ma. Don, what's going on? How's the business world?
Yeah, so a lot's happening, and I'm especially happy today because it's Friday, as always. So let me get started right away on today's big news. The Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge did better than expected last month. So data from the Commerce Department shows inflation held steady at 2.5% in July. So this is just shy of the Fed's 2% target. Now, the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index also shows that consumer spending is holding steady. Now, increased spending, it went to 0.5% for July. That's how much it increased. The latest data comes just weeks before the Fed is expected to start cutting interest rates. Now onto China policies. The Biden administration is again delaying its final decision for Section 301 tariffs on Chinese goods. The U.S. Trade Representative's office is saying that it's going to make a public decision in the upcoming days. We'll be keeping watch on that. The office was supposed to announce the decision by tomorrow regarding tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles, as well as batteries, semiconductors, and solar cells. They were the first imposed under the Trump administration, if you guys remember, back in 2018 and 2019. Now, whether to ease the tariffs is the Biden administration's first major trade decision since Vice President Harris became the presidential nominee. Now, dialing back the tariffs is likely to draw at least some criticism that the Biden-Harris administration is softer on China compared to that of former President Trump. And as well, Brazilian President Da Silva said today that Elon Musk must respect the rulings of the country's Supreme Court. And the words come amid an ongoing feud, a feud that left social media giant X on the brink of actually being taken down in Brazil. So X was still working normally in Brazil as of this morning, but the platform said on Thursday that it expected the Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes to order a shutdown, quote, soon. So this is coming after a court imposed a deadline for the company to identify a legal representative in Brazil that expired. The court also blocked the local bank accounts tied to Musk's Starlink satellite internet firm. Now, to shut down X's operation in Brazil, Justice Moraes would have to order telecommunication companies to stop carrying X traffic. Users, however, will still be able to dodge the blockade if they know how to use VPNs. Next stop for union railway unrest in Canada, the courthouse. The Teamsters Union has filed several appeals to challenge orders by the Labor Board. Last week, railroaders were told to return to work and accept binding arbitration. That was when a third party decides new terms for a contract. Now, in this case, between the Teamsters Union and Canadian National Railway and Canadian Pacific, Kansas City, the Teamsters president said that the action threatens constitutional rights to collectively bargain, while industry groups were concerned about the economic consequences of a drawn-out shutdown. Meanwhile, an advocacy group will have to face a lawsuit brought on by ex-owner Elon Musk. He has accused watchdog group Media Matters of intentionally trying to harm the social media company. He claims that the organization knowingly created side-by-side images of major advertisers next to extremist content in a report it published last year. You guys remember that? Media Matters pushed for a dismissal, claiming that it can't be liable for truthful statements. But a judge said X has sufficiently alleged that the group acted with actual malice. Neither side responded to a request for comment. And a tech giant, AI tech giant, Supermicro, hit with allegations of accounting manipulation. Supermicro shares dropped immediately. Here's the story on that.
Tech giant Supermicro accused of manipulating financial statements again. Hindenburg Research has published a lengthy report listing the same violations the SEC charged it with back in 2020. NTD reached out to Hindenburg, but it didn't respond before airtime. Back in 2020, the SEC said Supermicro illegally recorded revenue early, $200 million improperly recorded over 3 years. Specifically, the SEC says it would ship products before scheduled delivery dates. Then it would record this as current period revenue instead of next period revenue. This artificially lifts the current period sales, deceiving investors. The SEC said that in one instance, a customer said, "Please reject this shipment." Why are you shipping this now? The Supermicro salesperson responded, "Can you please help to approve this shipment to help with our quarter end? I was instructed by our management to push all the orders out before our quarter end, which is also our year end. We will just need your special support for this time." Supermicro eventually settled with the SEC for $17.5 million. A new lawsuit alleges Supermicro is still doing this, that it's recording revenue before sales are complete and charging customers for incomplete products. The lawsuit, brought by a former executive, says it also shifts revenue between business units. This makes certain segments look more profitable than they actually are. NTD reached out to both Supermicro and the former executive. Neither responded before airtime.
You see stuff like this, happen all the time. A lot of companies do that because I think a lot of people would be surprised.
Supermicro has postponed filing its quarterly report. Business consultant Bob Bilbrook says this may give it time to correct any errors. He says he believes Supermicro will be fine because they are in a lucrative market, a computer server company in the midst of a predicted AI boom.
If you have AI elements to your company, I think a lot of people are going to ride the wave of just having that AI buzz around their company.
Hindenburg Research also says Supermicro has been exporting high-tech products to Russia. It says exports have increased threefold since the war began, citing 45,000 records from trade aggregator TradeSpark.
Next, the Trump campaign is sharing what a second-term agenda would look like when it comes to energy. Former President Donald Trump would reverse many of President Joe Biden's clean energy rules on vehicle emissions and power plants. That's what Trump's former Interior Department Secretary Dave Bernhardt told reporters. He added that the former commander-in-chief would also remove the U.S. from the Paris Agreement on fighting climate change. Yet again, a spokesperson for Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign responded by charging that Trump wants to sell American energy to big oil. And executives from Nippon Steel and other Japanese steelmakers say it is critical to protect the Japanese market. They're urging Tokyo to limit steel imports from China. Now, mind you, China is the world's biggest steel producer. The CEO of Nippon Steel said, quote, "We are in a very dangerous situation. If we don't protect it, the Japanese market will go wrong." Now, the company is the world's fourth biggest steel maker. China's steel exports rose 24% in the first half of 2024. The CEO is worried about that China's exports could be even more dominating as the Chinese domestic needs dropped significantly. The U.S., Europe, and South Korea have implemented trade policies to restrict Chinese steel imports. And staying on China, trade between Russia and China has gotten a bit more complicated because of sanctions by the United States. Now, this is according to sources who spoke to Reuters. A bit more detail on that. One source says that Chinese banks have become very strict with their transactions after the U.S. threatened more sanctions on countries dealing with Russia. Another source explains that there are billions of yuan in payments being held up, leading to some delays for Russian companies and additional costs. Keep in mind, China is Russia's largest trading partner and is a vital source for Moscow, who is under pressure from Western sanctions. And sources are saying that some Russian businesses have had to come up with workarounds to get paid, which is increasing the cost to process transactions. Meanwhile, RTX will be cutting a $200 million check for violating export laws. The U.S. State Department announced the fine for sharing data and products with prohibited countries. Now, this includes intellectual property and technology with China. In one instance, for example, employees showed Chinese citizens information about the F-22 Raptor fighter aircraft in Shanghai. And this is just one of 3 legal matters against the aerospace and defense company. RTX has voluntarily disclosed its mistakes. On a recent earnings call, the company said that it has set aside about $1 billion to resolve the separate legal cases. Now, California homeowners are bracing for a major insurance rate hike because starting in November, all states will raise premiums by an average of 34% for 350,000 policyholders. Some could even see increases as high as 650%. This is just the largest increase since home site insurance raised premiums by 38% in 2021. All states' rate hike is part of a broader trend among insurers retreating from California. Companies like State Farm as well and farmers are scaling back due to the higher risks of insuring properties in wildfire zones. All states stopped issuing new policies last year, citing financial risks from severe weather and soaring repair costs. Consumer advocates have raised concerns as well about transparency and how wildfire risks are calculated. Allstate has responded by offering some discounts for fire-resistant homes. A few more stories today. A small makeshift fish pond in Brooklyn has gone viral online and brought local communities together. In fact, it's grown to a full-fledged project. We're now going to NTD Sean Marshall for this story.
A simple, community-built, leaky fire hydrant fish pond is a special sight, especially when hidden among New York City's predictable rows of buildings. The Bed-Stuy Brooklyn Koi Pond is quickly becoming famous among locals and across the internet. People were heartbroken when a vandal destroyed it in the middle of the night, but the organizers responded.
I mean, it was an unfortunate thing, but it turned up a negative to a very much of a positive. To see the way that the community came together 24 hours, this is the outcome. It's actually even better.
The small aquarium started when a local came up with the idea and dared Jaquan to buy fishwort. That simple idea has since evolved into an entire community project, including a goldfish adoption event and a backpack giveaway. While I was there, city council members stopped by just to make sure things were going okay. It's become so popular that a couple showed up to take wedding pictures. A social media influencer even ran a giant ad about the pond. The tiny project now has a full team consisting of 3 project managers, a filmmaker, architectural designer, 2 graphic designers, and a community engagement coordinator.
The 2 of the furthest people we had people fly in, one was we had a group of people flying, a family flying from Australia. And then we had another group family fly in from China.
As winter approaches, the Koi Pond team is planning to expand the Bed-Stuy Aquarium from a community pond into a project to create a more robust, weatherproof pond and community hub. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And finally, millions of new supercars are on display at a castle in England. Now in its 19th year, the event combines new car debuts and a range of classic cars and luxury goods. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the latest on the show's hottest rides.
A classic car cruises down the gravel drive at Blenheim Palace in England. This is Salon Privé Motor Show. Co-founder and director David Bagley explains this year's color.
So every year we have a colour collection here in the central area of the South Lawn, which is the cricket square. 4 years ago we had the red collection, followed by the platinum collection, then yellow, and this year it's blue.
One of the vehicles on display is the Naran Hypercoupe. The V8 sports car goes from 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds, or 0 to 100 miles per hour in 16.5.
So it's been labelled a Hypercoupe, so it's a 2+2 raw and visceral GT3 style car for the road. It's a hypercar. We're producing 39 of them, and the idea is to make it feel like the automotives of yesteryear, where it's an accomplishment to drive them, an enjoyment and a challenge.
Just 39 Narans will be built. The customized vehicles make it an exclusive option for the super wealthy.
So the starting price is $2 million, but they're all entirely bespoke. The car itself is called the Naran, but naming rights go to the beholder, and basically from that point onwards it's all bespoke. We've had people request horsehair, marble finishes, and so on, stripped out, all from there basically.
One of the most anticipated sports cars launched at Salon Privé is Tuthill's GT1.
We're going to build 22. I think we could have sold 122, but we're delighted to be able to supply 22 to clients all over the world. Their starting price is £1.5 million, and I don't take that number lightly.
Using his rally experience, boss Richard Tuthill designed his version with a fresh look and better suspension.
So actually this car sits a little higher than most cars of this type, and we have a tremendous amount of suspension travel. Therefore, we should have a perfect road car. This needs to be driven every day on the road, and I don't mean smooth roads, I mean proper B roads.
The Brabus SL750 made its debut at Salon Privé. The German aftermarket tuning company mostly produces high-performance versions of Mercedes-Benz sports cars.
So basically, aesthetic-wise, it's based on an SL63 4-litre 4.8 twin-turbo. That is the base vehicle from Mercedes-Benz. Then Brabus is obviously mated with that.
Salon Privé runs through August 31st at Blenheim Palace. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
All right, quick mention of markets before I go. All three major U.S. indexes ended higher today. Starting with the Dow, up about 0.5%, S&P 500 up 1%, NASDAQ up 1.1%. Amazon and Tesla each made gains today as well. Broadcom, Intel, Nvidia all rose today, and Friday today ends a tumultuous month on Wall Street. Sudden moderation in the labor market in early August sparked fears of a U.S. recession. But latest U.S. economic data today raised expectations that the U.S. Federal Reserve will cut interest rates modestly in September. All right, that's all the stories we have for you guys on Business Matters today. Back to you guys, Chris, Fiona.
Don, can we talk about those supercars?
Yeah, let's do. I mean, I'm no expert on cars here, but when I heard that one car can go from 0 to 200 miles an hour in just 16 seconds, I mean, I was impressed by that. I mean, what would you guys do with a car like that?
I don't even know. I mean, I feel like I would probably drive a lot more. I don't know. It just the beauty of it. I'm always really impressed by them when I walk by them, and you see them a lot in the streets of Manhattan.
It must cost a lot.
Well, if I were to get a supercar, I'd sign up for the F1. I get training, I start training right now. But I think to warrant actually the name supercar, they should make them fly, you know? That's the next step.
Right?
That might take a few years, but I agree.
All right. Don Ma, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.